Hi, welcome to Books in the Helena. I'm Helena. Today we're going to be going through the books that I purchased during my vlog last week. I will try to link it up here. Or up here. If I'm being completely transparent with you, I already filmed this video, but I ended up not liking it. So, take two. Okay, so the first book that I purchased during last week's endeavor was The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. So I heard about this book through Noelle Gallagher's channel. The main characters, Josh and Lucy, they're competing for the same promotion in this workspace, and it's kind of like an opposites attract kind of romance, if I remember correctly. So I can't wait to give this one a read. Another book that I purchased was The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. So this book follows Achilles and Patroclus' relationship through the Trojan War, and I hear that the writing in this is absolutely beautiful. Madeline Miller also wrote Circe, so if you liked that book, you'd also like this one. Kind of a tragic romance, I believe, and people say that they cry during this. Yeah, so if you're into ancient Greece, Greek mythology, that sort of thing, you might like to pick this one up and give it a read. Here we have a heavy one, and that is A Little Life by Hania Yanagihara. This book follows, I believe, a friend group throughout college and then in later life as they go through struggles and maybe some successes as well, but I hear that this is just very upsetting. So people always tell you to look up the content warnings beforehand before diving into this, so I can only imagine what is lying in wait for me. Yeah, so A Little Life. Next up on the list, I have another sort of tragic romance, I believe, and that is Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. So this book I actually found through Carolyn Reads channel because she talked about the book Swimming in the Dark. I'll try to put it here if I can remember the author. And in that book, I believe that is another kind of romance in the 80s in Poland, so it's, you know, another male-male relationship. So I hear about this book that it is a very beautifully written story of these two men and their relationship, and I also hear that the personification almost of Giovanni's room makes it all the more like whimsical in a very realistic way though. So that is Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. And the last book that I purchased during that vlog and that kind of expedition to Barnes & Noble was The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I think for this one, since it's gotten around practically everywhere I've seen, I mean, most of these have actually, I've heard of a lot of these through BookTube, so I wouldn't be so surprised if you knew all of them, but The Secret History, it follows a group of friends and they attend a very prestigious school, and within that school, all of them have been accepted into a sort of prestigious program, and under the influence of sorts of the professor, they kind of get into some shenanigans and someone is murdered. And I believe that this book either kind of works as a mystery to figure out who did it or why it happened. I'm not actually sure, but I can't wait to read because this will be a book club pick for one of the book clubs that I'm in, and I can't wait for that. So that's The Secret History by Donna Tartt. So the last book that I hauled this month is not one that I bought. It's a book that I actually got for school, and that is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. So if you don't know much about this book, I definitely recommend checking out Carly's YouTube because this is one of her favorite books, so she's talked about it. But basically, this follows Nick Carraway as he moves into the fictional West Egg in New York. He has a neighbor, Jay Gatsby, of course, who throws these extravagant parties night after night. Nick soon learns that the motive behind these parties goes beyond just the exploitation of Gatsby's wealth, and just it goes beyond him showcasing his grandeur and extravagance to just the population who just comes swarming into his parties. So in this there is forbidden romance, some murder. I don't think I could ever truly do a summary of this book any justice because there's just a lot to unravel in this short novel. So that is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. And now to switch gears a little bit, I'm going to talk about what's on my May TBR for the rest of May. So I'm currently reading Selected Poems by Emily Dickinson, and funnily enough, my friend Emily gave this to me. No, not Emily Dickinson, although that would be pretty cool. This poetry collection so far... Oh, there's a train, hold on. This poetry collection, so far I'm really enjoying it because Emily Dickinson's writing, I mean, it's just... She's a famous poet for a reason, you know? And it's also a gorgeous copy. This is the Fall River Press edition. It has this white leather-bound cover, and on it, I think the word is embossed because it's kind of like foiled, it's shimmery, embossed blue and red floral patterns, and the pages are gilded, and it's just a very beautiful book. Another book that I'm currently reading has also been lent to me by my friend Emily, and that is Tell It to the Bees by Fiona Shaw. So this book is a sapphic forbidden romance set in the 50s in England. So basically the plot of this is Lydia's marriage is failing, her husband's kind of dipping out, and at one point Lydia's son Charlie meets the town doctor, Jean, and she is also a beekeeper. So Charlie starts hanging out with Jean, and they kind of get close, and it's like a nice cute little bond. And eventually Lydia and Jean meet, and from there they develop a friendship, and that goes further, of course. But there is definitely some issues with that, seeing as it is the 50s, and that terrain can get pretty rocky pretty fast. It is definitely a slow burn though, because I think I was around halfway through, and that was when the first like significant event happened between Lydia and Jean, but I kind of dig it. So, Tell It to the Bees by Fiona Shaw. And then as for a book that I finished this month, I finished Tuck Everlasting by Natalie Babbitt. So this book follows Winnie as she accidentally discovers a secret spring filled with water that can make you immortal. She meets a family of immortals who drank from the spring, not knowing that it would make them immortal. It kind of goes through misadventures altogether, and there's a murder, which I completely forgot about. That's not even a spoiler, it says it on the back, and yet when I was reading this, I somehow completely forgot. And so when someone got killed, I was a little bit shocked, to say the very least. Overall, I liked this. It was nothing super special to me. I rated it a 3.5 stars on Goodreads, and if you really want to know my thoughts on that, you can check out my Goodreads. It will be linked below as always. So yeah, that was Tuck Everlasting by Natalie Babbitt. There's also a film adaptation that is on Disney Plus right now, and I plan to watch that soon. Okay, so there is a book that I've had on my TBR for I think the past 2 months now, and I picked it up because of a recommendation from Emmy. She talked about the beautiful writing in this, and I agree wholeheartedly. It's just, for some reason, I set it down and just really never picked it back up. It's a very dense literary fiction, and that is The God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy. And this book follows essentially 2 separate timelines, 1969 and what would be present day then in 1993. And it follows this family throughout an event that happens in 1969 that kind of changes the course of the family. But mainly we follow these twins, Esther and Rahel, as they kind of navigate life as they keep getting taken away from each other and whatnot. There's definitely some content warnings in here that you may want to look up before reading. Overall, the writing in here is gorgeous. It's just a very hard book to explain without really giving much away. That is The God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy. Okay, so now to switch gears a little bit once more, I want to talk about my May TBR for readathons that I'm going to be participating in. So the first readathon that I'll be participating in is for the Dark Academics Book Club 1-year anniversary or first birthday. So the hosts of this readathon will be the hosts of the DA Book Club. That is Emma from her channel Emmy. That is Carolyn from Carolyn Marie Reads. That is Lucy from Crescent Pages, Mary from Mary Among Stories, and Kiara Foster from her channel Kiara Foster. So sticking true to their academic book club roots, there are prompts based off of kind of classes that you can take. And I found this to be so fascinating and just such a brilliant idea. So for the sake of time, you know, yours and mine, I will just be explaining the prompts that I know I will be participating in because we don't need the whole rundown. I will share links to all the information for this readathon below. For English class, the prompt was to read a classic, and I do have quite a few classics on my shelves that I have yet to read. So I ended up choosing Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux, and somehow I have avoided knowing the actual plot of this book. Like, I could not tell you what it's truly about, but to my understanding, there is a phantom who lives within the opera, in the basement of the opera house, I believe. And there is a woman named Christine who either gets kidnapped by him or finds him, and somehow they fall in love. And for geography class, the prompt is to read a book from a country that you have yet to read a book from. So for that, I have another recommendation from Emma's channel, and that is The Broken Wings by Khalil Gibran. So this book is a very heart-wrenching, tragic love story, I've heard. And it follows these 2 characters, and they're just in love, but something goes wrong, I assume. Oh, and the author of this, Khalil Gibran, he is from Lebanon. I can confidently say that I've never read from Lebanon before. And for the final reading prompt that I will be certainly participating in is going to be for politics class, and that is to read a nonfiction book. So for that, I chose 50 Things You Should Know About the Vietnam War. So this book I have read parts of before, but I have yet to read it cover to cover, so I will be doing that for this readathon. And the last prompt that I will be participating in for that readathon is one that is not exactly a reading prompt, but more so for film class, as you may assume, is to watch a book to film adaptation. So since the sky's the limit here, I was excited. I may watch Tuck Everlasting if I have yet to watch that beforehand, and if not, then I'll probably just watch an S.E. Hinton book to film adaptation. And the second readathon of the month that I will be participating in is for A Frolic Through Fiction, or Ashley's Do the Thingathon. And I'm so excited for this one because the prompts for this one, off the top of my head, are read 50 pages a day, read an hour a day, read from a genre you don't normally read in, continue a series, or read the oldest book on your TBR. Or none of that at all, because you're just being productive. So I chose 2 of the prompts, and the first of which is to read the oldest book of my TBR. So this book I got a few years ago, and I picked it up and I was reading it. I was enjoying it, so I can't really tell you why I put it down to begin with. And that book is 1984 by George Orwell. So this one is a classic, and it follows our main character Winston in a dystopian future society where individualism is very frowned upon, and he pursues his ideas even though there's that idea of big brothers watching that comes from here. And this individualism that he kind of portrays can be very dangerous in like this totalitarian state. So yeah, it kind of just follows him, and I believe his love interest as they go through this book, kind of challenging the status quo of this society. I think. Like I said, I've never read it. And then also for this readathon, I'd like to continue series that I have started. I'd like to continue the Six of Crows duology series by Leigh Bardugo. The next book that I'd read would be Crooked Kingdom, and I can't wait to kind of just fly through this one just as I did with Six of Crows, which was recommended to me by my friend Ella, so thank you for that. And I don't really want to go into this plot just because it really does pick up from Six of Crows, so I don't really want to spoil anything. And I'd also like to just tear through the Shadow and Bone trilogy, also by Leigh Bardugo, because the Netflix adaptation has come out and people have opinions, and I haven't even wanted to hear any of them, just so I could just watch it for myself and have my own thoughts on it. The next series I'd like to continue would be the Brown Sisters Companion trilogy by Talia Hibbert. And so I've read Get a Life, Chloe Brown, so now I'm on Take a Hint, Dani Brown. So this follows Dani Brown as she gets stuck in her building's elevator, and the building security guard comes and, ultimately rescues her, gets her out of there, and someone films, I believe, this whole endeavor, and they end up going viral. So they play to this, and they kind of have a fake relationship to kind of reap the benefits from all the publicity that they get from being together and that kind of thing. But as you may prophesize, as this is a romance novel, they end up actually feeling for each other. So can't wait to see how this one plays out. So that's my book haul and my May TBR. Everything that I've talked about will be listed below. So until we hang out next, bye! Why do fools fall in love? May haul and May reads. Maybe I'm thinking about Zuko from Avatar.